I'm Emily Mashak, and you are listening to Tuned Into NoCo, Town Square Media's show that lets you know what matters in NoCo. I'm talking today with Dennis Johnson, the Deputy Regional Director for the U.S. Census Bureau, about how important it is to fill out the 2020 census. So thank you for joining me today, Dennis.
Thank you, and it's very good to talk to you.
Now, before we get started with the details of the census, could you just tell me a little bit about yourself? How did you get to be in the position you are today?
Well, I lived a long time. That's probably the best way to describe it. I started working for the census back in the mid-'70s, if you can imagine that, and I've stuck with it over the years. I even tried to retire at one time and have now come back for the 2020 census. So this has been my life for the better part of 40 years.
Wow. Now, for those who aren't familiar, I know everyone knows what the census is, but why is it so important to fill it out?
It is critically important I'll make it three reasons. The first reason is political representation, and that has nothing to do with politics as we know it. It has more to do with your voice, making sure that you're counted and that you are represented at the federal level, at the state level, at the local level, and making sure that our representatives all have equally about the same number of people that they represent. And that keeps everything on an even keel. As population shift, we want to make sure that the representation shifts to follow the population. Secondly, what is so critical is the money. There are literally hundreds of billions of dollars that are redistributed back to states and local governments based on census numbers. So things like highways, things like schools, things like senior centers and support, all sorts of local activities and local structures and organizations are impacted by that funding. And it's so important to make sure that we have an accurate count so that the needs that we have are met. And the third thing is it's not static. It's not just for this year. What we do right now is going to impact us for the next 10 years. So any mistakes or shortcomings now will impact us this year, next year, for the next 10 years. So we can't afford to do that, regardless of where you are and what community you might be in. We can't afford to let that happen to our community.
Mm-hmm. Is the census ever complicated for people to fill out?
Never. In fact, I probably shouldn't say this, but it's probably more difficult to order a pizza online than it would be to fill out the census online, or it is for me anyway. It really is simple. The questions are things that you know off the top of your head. It's who lives there, what are their ages and birth dates, what is their race and ethnicity, is your home owned or rented? All of those things are things that you know off the top of your head. We say it takes about 10 minutes. Literally, most people say it takes less than that. So it's something that you can spend a few minutes right now and impact your community for the next 10 years.
Right. And now I got mine in the mail, but it sounded like you said people can fill it out online.
Mm-hmm. We, for the first time, were able to collect the information online by going to our website. It's 2020census.gov, something fairly easy to remember. And it will direct you right to the site where you can fill out your information. If you received a paper questionnaire, you are more than welcome to fill that out and put it in the mail to send it back to us. It probably came with a postage-paid envelope, so you don't even have to put a stamp on it. And another way to do that would be to make a toll-free phone call. And you simply call in, and we have people trained on the other end in about 13 languages. So even if you speak or if more comfortable speaking a different language, we can accommodate that. So there are a number of ways to respond. And the final way is what we'll be starting here relatively soon. And for those households that have not yet responded, we will have one of their neighbors who we've selected and hired go knock on doors, be very cautious about making sure that they're safely distanced as well as wearing masks and not exchanging any handshakes or no contact involved. And they will help those residents to complete the census if they haven't had the opportunity to do so yet. So there are a number of ways to do it, and most importantly, just get it done. That's the most important thing I can say.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, we want people to get it done as soon as possible, but is there a deadline that people need to be aware of?
There it is. It's basically we'll continue to collect information through October 31st, but most of our activities over the next several months will involve those personal visits, knocking on your door. And given this age of pandemic, if someone is concerned about an individual knocking on their door, the best thing they can do is make sure they've responded some other way. And once they respond, we will take them off the list, so they won't have to have that personal visit. So we're hoping that people will take advantage of that and respond for themselves.
Mm-hmm. And now I'm out here in Colorado. We're in the northern Colorado area. What is the response rate looking like in our area right now?
Well, actually, the state of Colorado in general is looking better than the national rate. We're about 65.5% for the entire state. Now, Larimer County, for example, is even better. It's, close to that, 66.9%. City is about 69.3%. We are looking for a little more than that. And if we compare those with what we did 10 years ago, I think we've got a ways to go. And I know we can get there. We've done it before, and I'm certain we can do it again.
What are you doing to improve response rates nationwide overall?
Well, we've been working on this for quite some time. And in fact, we've been building partnerships with local organizations and governments, and using their voices, their communication vehicles to get the word out to people, to explain why it's important, how it's going to be done. And overall, we are actually running a little bit ahead of where we were in the 2010 census as far as overall response rate. But we are continuing to get that message out and continuing to let people know that it's not too late, and to encourage them to be a part of the census. Part of it is this education process, letting people know why it's important, that it's not just a throwaway activity that they can ignore, but it's something that will make an impact in their community for quite some time.
Right. And obviously, we've been talking this whole time about how important it is to fill out the census. But what would you say to listeners who maybe right now are hearing this and saying, I don't want to fill it out, I don't want to be giving my information out like this, or they just don't want to take the time? What would you say to them?
Well, first of all, I'd say number one, it's completely safe. By law, this information cannot be used for any other purpose other than for the purposes of the census. Secondly, we're in a pandemic, and all of us have been asked to take certain precautions, to do certain things to protect others. And the census is kind of like that, too. You don't respond just for yourself. You respond for your community. You respond for your neighbors. You respond so that your community gets its fair share. And if you choose not to, that means your community, the place you live, the place you've invested in, is going to lose funding for the next 10 years. And that can be avoided by one simple act.
Yes. What else would you like people to know about the census that they may not already?
Well, we're excited that, it comes around every 10 years. This is our Super Bowl. So we're excited about that, but we want others to be excited about it. We want others to be excited that we're taking this opportunity to participate in one of the most fundamental activities that we do as a nation. We've been doing it since 1790, every 10 years. And it's kind of exciting when you think about it. We're a part of history, the 24th time we've done this. Out of all those years, this is only the 24th. So we want people to get excited about that and understand the importance of it, why it happens and why it's so important.
Definitely. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today, Dennis. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else you would like to add or want listeners to know?
If somebody does knock on your door, those are neighbors. There is no census army that comes out and does this. These are your neighbors. These are friends who are concerned enough about their community that they've joined us. And please answer the questions, treat them with respect, and they will treat you with the ultimate respect. And we do appreciate that.
Great advice. Well, thank you again, Dennis. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Glad we had this opportunity.
Thanks again to Dennis Johnson, the Deputy Regional Director for the U.S. Census Bureau. To fill out your census, visit 2020census.gov.